Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We are celebrating another film on the festival run right now. It's the movie Stay Awake. Jamie, Wyatt, Finn, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. I have to send an extra special congratulations, and I'm so happy to Jamie because for anyone who doesn't know, we went to school together, and to be able to see someone who you thought was super cool in school go on to make a great feature like this, it's really like something else. I'm so proud of you and so happy for you.
Thanks. It's so cool to be here with all y'all, and I love your show, Perry. And it's kind of surreal getting to be on it. So
All right, let's get into it. So, Jamie, I'm sure you've done this quite a bit along the way, but with a festival movie, a lot of our viewers will not know what Stay Awake is about just yet. So, will you do the honors and give everyone a synopsis?
yeah, sure. Stay Awake is it kind of comes from a lot of my personal experiences growing up as a teen. It's basically about two brothers who are trying to help their mom through a prescription drug addiction that she has in small town America. Um, and I guess the only other thing I would say is I just remember growing up a lot and always seeing films about addiction, and never really seeing films about the family members of addicts and sort of the roller coaster ride that they have to go on. And so when I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I could write something about it, that's sort of the angle I wanted to take. And luckily, I had some incredible actors who I got to collaborate with, and yeah, really proud of how it turned out.
All right, so bringing school back into the mix briefly, because I know we got a lot of viewers out there who are, trying to become filmmakers. Some of them are in schools. So, what would you say was the key to bridging the gap between being in a program like that and actually getting the green light for your first feature film? Or first feature film, you have a documentary as well, but this is your first feature that you're directing solo.
Yeah, and my first narrative film as well, first fiction one. I think the bridge it was honestly just staying perseverant through it. It just took a long, it takes a long time. I remember people telling me, "Oh, it's going to take you 4 years when between school. That's the average." And I was like, "I don't even know what that means." And it took this film beyond that average, but you know, I I'm really happy that it took that long. 'Cause I also had a chance to rewrite the story a lot. I had a chance to meet a lot of great people that ended up kind of becoming this family. So I think just getting into places where you can find a lot of great collaborators, and then just staying really passionate and perseverant about your project is sort of, I think, what got Stay Awake there.
4 years is such a specific and random number. I'm trying to piece together what that might be.
It might have taken Stay Awake a little bit longer than that, but 4 years was. I remember back then I scoffed. I was like, 4 years? Why? Because we had made a short on the same subject, but it just the amount of pieces, the stars that have to align. Whether it be the actors you want to work with, the budget, obviously, the location. There's the pandemic that we had to contend with. A lot of pieces are sort of a part of all of it.
All right, Finn and Wyatt, time to make Jamie blush a little bit. So again, his first narrative feature right here. You guys have a lot of opportunities at your fingertips right now. So when you get a project like this that comes your way, what is it about your very first meetings with Jamie that make you think like, "Yep, I know he can do this, and this is a new director that I need to spend time with and work with"?
I loved the script immediately. So I was already like 80% sold. But of course, a director has a huge impact on what the project is going to turn into. Knowing that he was the writer and director, I already know that there's like synergy in the vision. And after talking to Jay, I don't even know, we didn't even spend much time talking about the film. I mean, of course we did, but a majority of our conversation was about music and just getting to know each other. And I was like, I really connect with this person on a friendship level and also a creative level. We shared a lot of the same interests, and I just, after seeing his short, the Stay Awake short, I felt confident in his ability to turn out his vision, and I am so glad that I got to be a part of it. I love you, Jamie.
I love you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I read the script and hopped on a call with Jamie. I love the script, by the way. I'm not just skipping over that. I hopped on a call with Jamie, and our call was pretty similar to that. I mean, we just talked about a bunch of random stuff and getting to know Jamie in just every way possible was like so nice and authentic. Like it didn't feel like he was just trying to get to know me for his project. It felt like he was trying to get to know me as a person, because Jamie's such a genuine, sweet guy. And I think another thing that was really big for me was like, and this happened more specifically on set, but also in that original call. Any question I would ask Jamie about this script, about this movie, about experience, he would be able to answer like almost immediately. He is so passionate about what he does, and he has put every ounce of his being into this project, and that's something I respect endlessly. And for him to go out of his way and say, "Yeah, I would like you to be a part of this," I can't say no to that. you know.
You could feel what you're describing when you actually watch the movie. There's like an extreme amount of sincerity, I think, from the direction, but also from every single person involved. And, I don't know this for sure, but I watched the movie and it gives me the sense that every single person you had involved is giving 100% and cares about the story to their core. And that makes all the difference on movies like this.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly, Perry. We're really lucky to be able to work with people who would take what you sort of brought into it, and they took that from you and they moved it forward in directions where they took ownership. The actors, a lot of the cast, the crew, the location managers. I mean, who endlessly tried to just find the best locations. It was really, there were so many different components to a film like this. That's like kind of a labor of love for everyone. I really lucked out.
Many questions, many follow-up questions to what you just brought up there, but first going back to the writing phase here. So, you kind of brought this up before. It feels like we pretty often see very, like black and white depictions of addiction and how one should deal with them. But this right here is a pretty complex exploration of, I guess I would say finding a balance between supporting a loved one, but also not at the expense of one's own well-being. So can you kind of talk us through a little bit about finding out the right balance for those two things in this script?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it honestly was just drawing from a lot of the personal experiences that I had, and that people who are also in the treatment community had, that I know, and just sort of expressing that patience mixed with that frustration, mixed with the question of always sort of asking, like, how much of myself do I put into trying to help someone that I love manage a very difficult disease. How much do I owe to myself to step away and you know uh, develop a sense of self care for you and maybe your brother, your sibling, other people. It's really tough. I really wanted to sort of illustrate that as best I could, as best as a film can. Just sort of the ups and the downs of that journey.
It was very beautifully done. All right, Finn
Thanks.
and Wyatt, for you two, I was wondering what kind of backstory work you did here, and maybe what kind of conversations you had with Jamie early on, specifically to figure out why Ethan and Derek have such different feelings and approaches to dealing with this situation at the onset.
Um, there were a lot of conversations about that, obviously, and I remember some of the ones at the beginning were, I feel like they were more simple questions, and as we got deeper, as we got into some of the more complex scenes, I feel like as we grew with these characters, we kind of were able to understand their perspectives, and Jamie was so willing to be open about his experience, which helped, I know, me and Finn as well, like really understand what these characters are going through, and I think the difference in their perspectives. I remember asking Jamie about that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the answer was kind of about like the amount of time spent with her before she kind of fell into this, um, and into her addiction, and when she was more of just that loving, caring mother that Derek is so like set on, like he holds out so much hope for her, and in a way that makes him kind of almost like the nicer one, but like Ethan just hadn't spent that much time with her. Like there's a part in the movie when they're talking about like a memory, and Ethan's like, I don't remember that, about like her just having like that mom moment, and he just doesn't remember. And I think that kind of explains why their outlooks on on taking care of her are so different is because just like, yeah, that amount of time. I don't know if that made a lot of sense. Sorry.
Do you mind me asking, what were some of those more complex scenes that might have been more challenging to explore?
Um, a big one was the scene that we're talking about, the memory in, when we're at dinner, when I go to visit her, when Derek's gone, and we just kind of have this really beautiful conversation. And first of all, that was such a fun scene to film. I mean, not fun. It was fun. It was just nice. Like acting opposite Chrissy Metz is like, I mean, she's amazing. She's incredible. So being able to work with her, and also like this Finn guy, he's pretty cool. Like I don't want to sell him short at all. He is amazing, and I love him so much. But yeah, I just that scene that scene was there's a lot going on in that scene. There's a lot of subtext going on in between. Like I remember there's a point in it where it's like, can I love her like or can I like treat her like my mom? Like she's like acting like my mom right now. Like she's giving me relationship advice. She is being so kind and she's being like there for me. She's like and I asked Jamie, I'm like, is there like a piece of hope in that? Like, will he be hopeful from here on out? Which I think Ethan is very careful with the moments he chooses to be vulnerable and trust people, and I think that scene kind of highlights that, and him like finally being able to open up to her. I think was a big scene, and Jamie guided me like beautifully through it. So
Just to like piggyback off of that, I love that scene, and I love the subtext that you're referring to. There's like specifically a storyline within Ethan's character that is, you know, it is very subtextual, but the way that they connect, there's this moment where you see them like transcend what they're actually speaking and have this moment of love and connection that is like, I might mess up, I'm your mom, and I'm always going to be here for you no matter what, even if it doesn't look like it, even if I'm not well enough to physically be there. I always want to, and I always love you. And that's a scene for me. Like I'm choked up. I've watched the movie a handful of times now, and I always choke up. I just love watching their dynamic.
How about for you in terms of, was there any particular day on the shooting schedule that, I don't know, you circled in red and say that day, that scene in particular, I'm gonna have my work cut out for me the most?
I mean, there's a lot of emotion sprinkled throughout this film, so there was a handful of days, but I think the one that sticks out for me when I'm thinking back on it is there's a scene towards the end of the movie where Ethan and Derek are once again searching for their mother, and it ends in a point where, again, I don't know if we're spoiling things, but it ends in a point where it's a pretty harrowing experience for both of them, and you sort of see Derek break. You know, there's this positivity and this pep that Derek is always carrying on his shoulder, um, and you see all of that just crumble beneath him, like the foundation breaks, and so that moment, you know, I wouldn't say I was like nervous for, but I just knew it'd be difficult to go there, especially having known Jamie's story and being able to relate to it in a lot of ways. It's scary, you know, even as an actor, knowing that you're playing a role and it's fiction. Sometimes you go to those emotional places and it's hard to get out of. But that was one thing that I loved about this set so much, is there was so much support and encouragement, and Jamie was like this protector of us as actors, which is something I deeply appreciate and you don't always experience. So those sensitive subjects and those highly emotional scenes, I always felt like it was a safe environment to explore those things and really become raw and vulnerable for the film and for the purpose of storytelling.
I always feel like that is well worth highlighting to the max here. So, Jamie, as like the leader, everything trickles down from the top. What are certain things that you set out to do as a director on set to make sure that, I mean, not even just your cast who are going to these challenging places, but even just like your crew and every single person that you're making this story with, to make sure everyone feels, like safe, supported, and like their voice is being heard?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that role is especially important on a film like this because again, no one's getting paid millions of dollars on these indie films. You're really there, for a reason. And I think these sorts of films, to me, not that I've had a chance to make millions of movies, but you really get to do the collaborative aspect of filmmaking, of art, is sort of what you get to hone in on here, and that's what I try to do. You try to bring people into the film as best you can. I think a lot of, not that I'm like, a super experienced director, but what I found was a lot of what my role was sort of trying to bring out the best in people, and that happens in a bunch of different ways. Some people want to be heard. Some people just want to be left alone. Some people want have a lot of opinions, beautiful opinions that if you really give them free reign, they come back knowing what your intent was, and they just shock you. I mean, that's my favorite part of these processes, is when you have an idea, you have a blueprint, and then you get to surround yourself with people that are, in their specific areas, much smarter than you, and they come back with something that just astonishes you. And then as a whole, collectively, you come up with something that's a lot better than you could have ever done yourself. And so I think that comes in a bunch of different ways. It was my favorite part, honestly, of making this film, and I hope to be able to do it again, because it really is beautiful. It's a beautiful experience getting to make art with people.
All right, speaking about different approaches to the work, Wyatt and Finn, a two-parter for you here. You hit set, you're working together. What is something about both of your processes that align, that the second you hit set, that particular thing was in sync? But then can you each share something that the other did that, wasn't like how you work and was maybe refreshing for you?
That's a great question, actually.
Perry, your
Um,
questions are so good.
I
yeah,
try.
wow, I love that. Um, I want to
Thanks.
say like, uh, I don't know if this answers your question specifically, but for a lot of the shoot, I was scared for the scenes where I'm crying, because I just like have had trouble with that recently. Just kind of getting those emotions out. But there's something about Finn that brought that out of me, and I feel like emotionally we were always on the same level. Like in every scene we were there, and it was so easy to connect with him and to just like be there with him. It was so easy to be present. And I don't know if that answers the question specifically, but
I feel that our processes were a little different in just like how we'd memorize lines. Like I don't know, we just like I do this thing where I'll memorize every scene prior to shooting something, which usually like scenes change, but it just helps me to like have this almost muscle memory of a film. So no matter where we pick up in shooting, I'm not sure if that's different in your process, but it was cool to be able to see you. I think the reason I say that is because I approach scenes and acting very sporadically. Like I do a bunch of character prep and like journal out the hobbies of the character and stuff like that. So then when I'm filming, I like hop in and I don't know if I like do a bunch of like prep the day of. I'm just like, okay, I've done all the work and I'm just like, whew. And it was really cool to see like Wyatt take take time, and I've taken some inspiration from him like on the day to really center himself and get into like the right emotional headspace for a scene, because there were these times where we had these highly emotional scenes together where I'd just be like reading my book like la di da di da, and just like sort of in a different headspace, and then I see Wyatt like reading his sides and like in the corner like this, and I'm like, okay, wait, there's there's something going on there. So I really appreciated that about Wyatt, is like he's really good about remaining present and taking the time to hone in on emotional moments.
I love that. All right. Yeah, obviously I have to bring up Chrissy here, who's a very big part of this movie. I'll toss this one to you, Jamie. So I've got to imagine when she gets involved, it's a big deal. And like, especially as an EP, her involvement probably adds a lot of momentum to the project. So what were your first conversations with her like? And how does an offer to star in a movie evolve into her also getting involved in a producerial capacity?
Sure. Well, it's I can't stress enough just how lucky I really have been. All three of these actors that I got to primarily work with, just how sweet and vulnerable really all of them are in terms of what they bring to a story. Chrissy's definitely no exception. She was kind enough to meet with me physically, actually on the last day before COVID. It was the we met at a restaurant, and it was a ghost town, and we were both we were like, wow, it looks like this pandemic thing's really starting to take shape. It was in February or March. It was in March, and then the whole world went into lockdown. So it was actually literally the last meal I had at a restaurant was with her. And it's a lot of what Finn and Wyatt were saying. It's a lot of just getting to know the other person, getting to see if you can collaborate with them, if you kind of share a similar worldview about how to make art and film. Um, we had the same birthday, which was kind of fun. Like, there were a lot of weird things that lined up really nicely between she and I. And then COVID happened, and in terms of to sort of take it a step further from your question, once everybody came on, obviously the way actors come on, and financing and production and schedules, it's all interconnected. And if people fall out, that affects everything too. And when the pandemic happened, Chrissy always said, I'll stay on. And in this world, in the limited experience I have, you just never know with people. Like, a lot of the times people will say that, and then a bigger project will come. And for Stay Awake, that it's like literally any project. We're like a small indie film, and so it's I didn't know what to expect. And this project meant a lot to me. I spent a lot of time. It's literally based off a lot of important struggles I've had, and a lot of people have. Um, and so she, she she stayed on. She really is a person of her word, and I can't say I'm surprised, having gotten to know her better now, but she's really just such an amazing human being. And she took the EP role seriously. Like, she'd hate that I'd bring this up, but I remember there were times on like a hot Friday in the middle of the summer, and suddenly like ice cream sandwiches would appear for the entire crew. And like, no, and whoever donated them is supposed to be anonymous, but like everyone obviously knew it was Chrissy. And like, she would just do little things like that, in addition to taking her role and her character very seriously and really giving it 110%. She would do a lot of things to help inspire the cast and the crew, because it's what you said, Perry. I mean, it's a trickle down thing. And I've definitely been in experiences with the main actors of a film where it just takes one person to really just create a toxicity that can kind of permeate. And she and Finn and Wyatt really set the tone that ripples with a lot of other people, in just creating this familial kind of beautiful setup that felt like summer camp, in the Catskills.
And you need that kind of environment to be able to tackle the immense challenges that come with making a smaller production like this. So all three of you feel
Yep.
free to jump in on this, but can you give me an example of a day when things like were not going to plan at all, but you were able to pivot or find a creative solution and a scene was better off because of it?
Everything went perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, nothing comes to
No
mind for
issues.
me. I don't know, Jamie.
We changed some locations at the very end, that ended up, I think, making the film a lot stronger. Like, initially, Derek was going to work at a gas station, and I always wanted Ethan to work, but couldn't find a good place for him. And then we just found this just incredible bowling alley and incredible ice cream shop, and both of them had constraints to them, but I think a lot of the times those constraints really helped us focus. And it was at a time in the production, it was a 21-day shoot. where I think we were all the actors, the crew, everybody was sort of coming together nicely, and we were really able to, I think, make something really strong for those. I'm really proud of those locations.
I don't remember that. I was just gonna say, my mom is in the movie because this is my last that was my last project before I turned 18. So she kind of had to be with me, and she was on set for the bowling, and while they were doing the montage when I'm bowling, she's in the background, and I
did not
yeah,
know
she's in
that.
like the green outfit. I just it makes me really happy that Jamie included that. So thank you.
That's like the kind of thing that goes in the movie's IMDb trivia section. Actually, here's a very random question for all three of you. I ask this all the time on my interview series, Collider Ladies Night, but I'll pose it to the three of you because I did look at your IMDb trivia sections, and they're either non-existent or they're very, very short. So I want each of you to tell me a very random fact about yourself that should go on that page.
Okay, just a fun fact about me. One time I was staying at the Nickelodeon Hotel, and they were having this game show that you could sign up for, and you had to list like a special talent. And so I decided, and I had never tried it before, but I decided that my special talent was going to be that I could pick things up with my shoulder blades. And so I figured out how to do that. And yes, I am a freak. Yes, I did get asked to join the Nickelodeon Hotel game show. And that is actually the peak of my career.
Does this hotel still exist and can I go?
I have no idea. I was like 8, but there's some really deep cut trivia for you.
Okay, that's a good one. Can you guys top that now?
I was a winner of Beetle Fest like 2 decades ago, back when it was around. That would be a. I'm a massive Beatles fan, so
What do you
that
have
could
to
be
do
a.
in Beetle Fest?
We would have to do 3 more of these interviews, Perry, to really get into the minutia of it. But it's
One day.
it one day. But there is that. I also have That's. I'll stop there.
I'm just imagining like a convention with a bunch of people that have pet beetles, which I know that's not what you're talking
I think that's what I heard right out
Yeah.
the gate, and then I realized.
Super visual though.
All right, Wyatt, you're not getting let off here. What you got?
I'll just I know how to solve a 5x5 Rubik's cube, and I enjoy doing it a lot. That's that second part you didn't need, but that first part is the trivia.
I do have a good one that should be on our IMDb trivia that I totally forgot about. That was one of the weirder nights of the film. Do you remember the car accident?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was an actual, cars crashing, and there was all of these logistics that happened with having to get a car, and there has to be 2 cars that look the same, because obviously you can't crash the car that we shot in, etc. The production crew like jumped through all these hoops to make it all happen, and we got there that night. It was a long shooting night. We had a lot of these car scenes back to back to back, all the sing-alongs, etc. The first scene of the night was the car crash itself, and the car drove there, and as soon as it got there, it wouldn't start. It just didn't start. So like everybody, like the whole crew, wanted to come and witness this car accident, and the car literally just didn't start anymore. As soon as it got there, it stopped, and we literally had to get another car to push the car to make it look like it was going. And then I think we pulled it off pretty well, but that was something that I remember everybody was just like, could not believe. You all remember that? Like, that was nuts.
That was crazy. It was very funny to watch. There's just like this huge truck that launched the car straight into a car accident. Like, what?
I'm always impressed by VFX and all that type of stuff, but that right there is true movie magic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. You slingshotted a car basically using another car.
All right, I gotta let you guys go. You got some celebrating to do. You are the opening night film of the San Francisco International Film Festival. So huge congratulations on that, and I can't wait to see where Stay Awake goes from here. Everybody out there, keep an eye out for it.
Thank
Thanks
you
again
so
for your
much.
time today, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Perry. Great to see you.